wonderful sight, eh, Keith? I bet you don't get sick of seeing that sight.
I never do. That kind of image never grows tired. It's amazing to see the two aircraft flying together, something that none of us ever dreamed would be possible, but thankfully came together this year.
And tell us about the background behind the naming of your aircraft.
Our aircraft is known as the Mynarski Memorial Lancaster, and it's dedicated to the memory of a Canadian air gunner by the name of Andrew Mynarski, who came from Winnipeg, Manitoba. On June 13th, 1944, Andrew's crew took off on what was their 13th mission to attack a set of German rail yards near the French town of Cambrai. On their way to the target, the aircraft was attacked by a German night fighter, and 3 cannon shells struck the aircraft, one setting fire to a hydraulic line in the aft part of the fuselage. The rear gunner, Pat Brophy, was stuck in his turret, and while the captain gave the order to abandon the aircraft, Andrew went to aid his friend, and as a consequence of that, ended up catching fire. He managed to get out of the aircraft after a valiant effort to attempt to save his friend, but unfortunately, he made a very hard landing in France and died very shortly after as a result of his burns. Pat Brophy survived the incident. The aircraft crashed, and he was thrown clear of the aircraft and managed to escape and evade German capture. A few months later, he made it back to England, and as a result of his testimony and other evidence gathered by the RAF and the RCAF, Andrew Mynarski was awarded a posthumous Victoria Cross, and it was presented by the Governor-General of Canada in 1946 in Winnipeg to his mother. And we've dedicated our aircraft to Andrew Mynarski's sacrifice.
That's a real stirring story, and of course Andrew Mynarski, just one of the 55,000 plus young men of RAF Bomber Command who gave their lives making the ultimate sacrifice in the Second World War. And it's strange to think that of the some 7,300 Lancasters that were manufactured, almost half of which were actually lost on operations in the Second World War, these are the only 2 airworthy examples left. We should say, for those who wish to know, it's the RAF's Lancaster that's leading, and the Canadian Lancaster is second. Who's on board the Canadian Lanc at the moment?
As I understand it, Don Schofield and Leon Evans are 2 lead pilots on the Lancaster, and interestingly enough, both these gentlemen were born in the United Kingdom and made their way to Canada later on in life, and both served Air Canada later on as airline pilots. Leon Evans, in fact, is the chief pilot at our museum, and Don Schofield is currently the world's highest time Lancaster pilot with over 800 flying hours on the aircraft.
And I was saying earlier that the Lancasters ceased being operational in the RAF, apart from this one that we have here, in 1954, but it was another 10 years of service they performed with the Royal Canadian Air Force.